I, 18F, am not sure how long I can keep lying. After considerably thinking about it, I fucked up. Long story short, 5 years ago when I was 13, I joined an internet chat group. I considered it to be an in-the-moment thing and didn't see it going far. I just wanted some people to talk to. However, in the group, there was a guy that was rather pushy about finding out more about me that was a bit older. He also kept mentioning wanting to meet up with me, and his girlfriend also made incredibly sexual jokes about me, before asking my age. Out of fear of giving out my real information to this guy that made me uncomfortable, I straight up lied and said I was 16. However, to keep up this lie, I had to tell the rest of the chat I was 16. Over time, I grew attached to a handful of the members and would consider them close friends now. That guy has gone. Sometimes he comes back, but I usually leave when he talks. Unfortunately, the lies have gotten worse, and not because I choose to lie, but more so out of necessity. They asked me what college I was going to when I was 15, and I panicked and said I was going to a university nearby, and now that I'm actually in a different college, I made a story about transferring for my masters. According to them, I'm 21 now. I really do love them and love spending time with them, but I feel guilty knowing that they don't really know the person I am fully. I'm considering studying abroad after COVID passes and was planning on meeting one of the girls I'm incredibly close with, but I'm afraid she'll find my age on my ID or it will come up somehow. I don't want them to think differently of me, but in the end I did lie and it was my fault for betraying their trust for 5 years. How long can I keep this up for, or should I just give it up? TL, Doctor, I've lied to an online friend group about my age for years. Do I fess up? PS, I'd if this matters, but the guy that was pushy would say stuff like I can't be friends with someone whose age/location/face I don't know in the main chat in front of everyone to try and make me give information, which is what pushed me to lie instead of avoid it. Didn't care about being friends with him, just thought it would make me look like an asshole to say it about you in front of everyone. I don't think he's entitled to information in the slightest, but I feel like the others who have genuinely supported and been there for me over the years probably do. Show them this post. After they read it they'll understand. TBH, when I read the headline, the part about the chat room and the older guy, I was so relieved when I continued reading. So, 3 years isn't a lot, but the gap between a 15 and 18-year-old's life development can be huge. And I'd be concerned your friends would feel disgusted knowing they made sexual jokes at someone who thought they were a peer that's actually underage. But, like you said, you can't keep lying. If I were you, I'd write them a message detailing everything, then logging off for the night, giving them time to digest, and coming back the next day. Hopefully they're chill, but there's no guarantee. Regardless, it would remove some of the burden of upkeeping a lie from you. It's really not as serious as you think it is. It only is to you because you spent your teenage years talking with these people. I'm pretty sure they weren't all truthful neither. If it really bothers you, then talk with the girl you plan to meet up with. She might be more understanding than you think. Just tell them about the fear you had back then. It's a valid fear, and say you kinda just kept it on. Like legit, I had a guy telling me he were a millionaire in the UK having a fiancée who made more than him, and he were jobless, had a child, and the list goes on. We found out he were working in a betting shop. He was still a part of the group afterwards, though not very long. No one held it against him, and he lied for the kicks of it, not the fear. Write something along these lines to the group. When I first joined this group, one member asked my age. At the time I was 13 and quite scared of giving out real information, so I lied and said I was 16. Later we all became such great friends, and I was scared that if I told the truth our friendship would end, so at 15 I lied about going to college locally. I am actually 18 and started college recently. You lot mean the world to me. Our friendship is so important to me. I had to come clean about my lie, and I really hope this doesn't change anything. Everything else about me is true, and I'm really sorry about lying. It's better to tell the truth now rather than let it build, as the idea of them finding out might cause you stress. Also, this way you are in control of the situation. After 1 year of low contact with my parents, I, 27F, agreed to a confrontation that I am not ready for. Should I allow myself to express my anger/resentment, or just let them say their piece and then walk away? There's a too long didn't read at the bottom, but otherwise I suck at brevity, so this is gonna be an epic. My 27F parents are very religious people. Their religious beliefs, the religious community I was raised in, had a negative impact on both my childhood/adolescence and our parent/child relationship in general. I have struggled to maintain a semblance of relationship with them since leaving home out of respect for them as my parents dispute the discomfort and stress this causes me. Last year they crossed a line for me, and I stopped talking to them for a while. A few months later, they're pestering me to plan to meet up for Father's Day, which was coming up, as if nothing had happened. I felt I at least owed them a conversation as to why I felt like they'd crossed a line, and why I was not comfortable to make nice and pretend like the relationship wasn't causing me distress. I called my father to hash it out over the phone. I really poured my feelings out, and tried to express as best I could why I had been so hurt by their recent actions. It was incredibly painful, to be so honest, but I felt that we were making progress in understanding each other. Then, unprovoked, my father tried to take a jab at my long-term partner, M39. I calmly shut him down, and told him that I was very happy with the life I've built for myself with my long-term partner. My father cut me off mid-sentence to tell me that I didn't have a good life. He said it twice. I was so shocked I could barely believe he'd actually said that to me. And then he followed up with, "If you only knew what God had planned for you." I hung up the phone, so don't know what would have come next. I felt so stupid and disgusted with myself for opening up to him, but I also just felt like I was done. They continued to send me messages to and communicate as if nothing was wrong, but I left these unanswered. Then they switched tactics, tried to downplay what had happened and imply that my no-contact response was an unreasonable and childish reaction. They presented me with a kind of ultimatum, telling me that if I wanted to walk away from the relationship over this, they would respect my wishes, but if not, we needed to meet up to discuss face to face. I felt very put on the spot by this and was very distressed by it, but ultimately told them that I would appreciate if they would respect my wishes for distance, and left it at that. The messages from them still came sporadically, but I left these unanswered unless something specific was being requested of me. When COVID hit, my parents used this as an excuse to get responses from me, under the guise of concern for my well-being, i.e., "We need you to call us so we know you're okay, as you haven't answered our messages," and stuff like this. I was compliant to these demands, being polite but never giving them anything further. These exchanges deepened my resentment towards them. I don't appreciate being manipulated in this way, especially because it reminds me of the control they exerted over me as a child, and it fucks with my emotional state. Then, my father suffered some kind of medical heart episode. I'm not 100% sure what exactly it was. It may have been a heart attack. He was admitted to hospital late one night, then discharged the next day and told to manage with medication. A few days later, he's back in hospital due to the same chest pain, and is told he will be flown to the city for major heart surgery. My mother messages me on the first instance of hospitalization to tell me what's happening, but I don't see the message till the morning. I don't know what to do. We're all in lockdown at this point, and I don't think reaching out to offer some kind of half-baked, insincere reconciliation is a responsible thing to do. While I'm trying to work out what to do without completely spiraling, I get another message from her saying that he's been given the all clear and discharged, and that she's sorry if she scared me with her earlier message. I'm pretty sure she also called me to make sure I got the update or something, but I don't really remember the exchange we had. I was really overwhelmed emotionally, but I deal with that kind of stuff by suppressing it, so I probably came off as a bit cold. On the second instance of hospitalization, she calls me to update me on the situation and advise on the upcoming surgery. I give my condolences and thank her for the update, but again, there's nothing I can do. She then messages me back to tell me that my father has his phone with him, so I can contact him directly. I have no idea what to do, and am completely spiraling into a manic emotional state. I don't want to offer him something I can't actually give him, but obviously don't wish him ill. He messages me directly while I'm trying to straighten myself out, to give me the same update that I've just received from my mother. The surgery isn't scheduled till the next day, and in the end I don't respond to him at all that night. which I am not proud of in hindsight. The next morning, I wake up to a message from my cousin who lives in another state. She says that my parents contacted her early in the morning to ask her to confirm whether I've changed my number, because they haven't been able to get in touch with me. I'd spoken with my mother on the phone less than 12 hours prior. They ask her to tell me to call my father as a matter of urgency. She is completely out of the loop, but screen caps the exchange and forwards it on to me. Thank her for passing on the message, and apologize to her for her being involved. I don't give her any further details and tell her I'll sort it out. Before I can call my father directly, she messages me again. It turns out, she got added to our parents' family group chat a while back, and never removed. She's just seen a message pop up from my father, who has sent the group an update on his situation from hospital. In it, he waxes poetic about living to see another sunrise, and then states that his condition may be an opportunity from God to reconcile with me, and if so he will gladly bear it. I feel kind of sick as I read this. She doesn't understand what the message is really about, so I give her minimal context and leave it at that, because I am all kinds of weirded out. I feel so guilty at her being dragged into this, and I don't want to emotionally unload on her at 8 in the morning. I call my father, and he seems very happy to know that I received his messages. He tells me that he is not doing so well, and is expecting to be prepped for surgery in a few hours. He tells me he is sorry if I was offended by any of his previous actions. He has sent me a few messages over the past year that say the same, and asks me is there anything that I want to say to him before his surgery. I tell him, gently and compassionately, don't think it's appropriate to air grievances hours before major surgery, but tell him that if he wishes to have a conversation at another time, once he is recovered, I will agree to that. He sizes on this, and says that he thinks this will be good for us both. I am very uncomfortable with the prospect of having to open myself up to either of them, but I feel that my hand is forced and I have to offer him something. I wish him luck in his surgery, and reassure him that he will be fine. Once I hang up the phone, I am sickened at myself for having offered the chance for another confrontation that I do not want. I feel that my father used the emotional power of his health scare against me in the same way he used to use his power of provider over me as a child, to control my behavior and make me bend to his will, at the expense of my own. I felt powerless, like I had sacrificed some of my agency to this man, again, and am deeply distraught at the prospect of another confrontation, especially because it feels coerced. After this exchange, I get radio silence from my parents for about 72 hours. And then receive a group text from my father to say that he is in the clear, did not end up needing surgery, and is going to be able to manage the damage done to his heart with medication. That was about 2-3 months ago. COVID restrictions are now easing in my area, and my father has messaged me to arrange a meetup. I did want to talk to a therapist or something beforehand, but haven't been able to because of lockdowns. Honestly, I'd rather get this out of the way instead of having to spend any more time agonizing, so I've agreed to a meetup this weekend. I know I will not consider any reconciliation with my parents, and plan to tell them that I do not wish to have any contact moving forward. I have a lot of anger and resentment towards them, both because of the events of the previous year, and also because I didn't want to have to do this confrontation thing. Trying to talk to them about stuff like this always feels counterproductive, because their religious dogma dictates an inflexible attitude. I would never try to fuck with their belief system, but they have no problem using it to walk all over me. I don't want to fight with them about how I feel, and there's nothing they could say would change my mind about my desire for no contact. I have prepared something to say in case they try to force some kind of explanation or justification from me, but I don't know if I should actually read it out to them. I've written it so that I can concisely express my emotional state towards them, without getting too detailed so they can't try to pull apart any specific examples and argue about them. I feel that it might be beneficial for me to finally be able to express some of my anger and resentment towards my parents instead of repressing it like I always do, but I am concerned that they'll try to turn it into a shitfight and I'll just be giving them ammunition, or that I'll say something that I might regret later. If there's anyone here that's ever been in a similar situation, I would really appreciate the benefit of your hindsight. TL, Doctor, I feel like my parents manipulated me into having a confrontation that I do not want. I don't know whether to let them have it, or just tell them I'm done and leave. Edit, I want to say a really big thank you to everyone who read even part of this, and took the time to comment. I took the night to think it over, and decided that you guys are right. I need to cut this off cleanly, if I really want it to be over and done. The insightful advice you've given has made me realize and fully accept that I don't owe anyone this meeting, and it can only serve to escalate the situation. I'm going to just message them to let them know that I'm not meeting with them and do not want any further contact, then block and advise family members of the same. I initially wanted to give my parents the letter I wrote as an explanation for going North Carolina, but the more I think about it, the more I realized that while I needed to write that letter for myself, I don't need to justify my decision to them. I'm going to keep my message short and concise, so there's no room for argument or misinterpretation. Again, thank you all so much for advice. I really needed to hear it. My live-in girlfriend, 30F, wants to move from London, UK to Sydney, Australia, 28M. I'm not so keen. I've been living in London since 2010, made quite a few friends since, and my immediate family live here too. Last year I met my now girlfriend, who's been here in the UK on a working holiday visa. She previously spent a couple of years in Australia and apparently loved it there. The UK, not so much. She despises the weather, especially during the winter, pretty sure she has seasonal affective disorder, and is convinced the bureaucracy in the UK is much worse than Australia, when it comes to buying a car, for example. It's come to the point where she's highly encouraging both of us to move to Australia. Earlier this year, I actually had an interview with a company in Sydney and passed, so I have a standing offer to join the company in Sydney when COVID restrictions ease. Realistically that won't be possible till June 2021, from what I can tell. However, I'm now not too sure about moving. It's literally halfway across the world, and I'm terrified about what might happen if a family emergency happens while I'm over 9,000 miles away. Also, I'm not sure how easy it'll be to make friends there. I'm a huge nerd, my GF isn't, and I really like talking about nerd stuff like anime, gaming, etc. with people. At the same time, I don't want my girlfriend to suffer any more in the UK than she has done. And even though I've never lived in Sydney, I visited once in 2016, and know that there is a chance I might like life there. Also, the job offer I have from Sydney pays pretty well and might be a good learning experience. So at the moment I'm actually thinking about giving Sydney a go for 2 years, but I want to let my girlfriend know that if I don't like living here at the end of that 2-year period, we'll have to have another discussion about where to live. This is especially important as she'll be dependent on my work visa. There's probably a risk of the relationship ending if we can't agree to live in the same country. Has anyone else been in this kind of situation, where your partner wanted to move and you weren't too sure? What did you agree to do in this kind of scenario? If not, what would you do in this kind of scenario? Too long didn't read. My girlfriend hates the UK and wants us to move from London to Sydney, Australia next year. I'm mostly worried about the distance from my family in London in case of emergency. Don't want to break up with GF either. What to do?